Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their expertise and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions. We help businesses scale using outside-the-box visibility and automation strategies. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm excited to have you joining us today. And we're going to dive into some great conversation all about persuasion. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to my guest today, Danny Bobrow with the Persuasion Blueprint. So welcome, Danny, to the podcast.
Thank you, Heidi. It's great to be here.
It's great to talk with you. Danny, can you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself, about the Persuasion Blueprint, and what you do, your role within it?
Absolutely. Well, currently, I'm the coach and founder, like I like to say, chief architect of the Persuasion Blueprint. My story begins 68 years ago. I start at the beginning because I think it did sort of inform my development and some sort of challenges and roadblocks along the way. I was born with a rather significant visual impairment and was non-correctable and continues to be non-correctable. That sort of created some dissonance in my early life. I felt that I was an intelligent, athletic individual with no evidence to support either belief, because the poor eyesight meant that I couldn't read and did not excel as a student and could not effectively compete in team sports, which is what most sports were when you're younger. And so struggled along and had some, I think, issues in terms of self-image as a consequence of that. But did like people, always knew I wanted to connect with people, and went on through life until I think a pivotal moment for me was sophomore year in high school, when I was exposed by my fitness phys ed coach, teacher, Mr. Rusk, to a concept that he termed the psychological fatigue barrier. And I'd never heard about it before or since. But it holds quite simply that our minds tell us to quit long before our bodies need to. And subsequently, I learned that your minds tell you to quit long before your mind needs to also. And I was pretty much your consummate quitter until that point. But that was an epiphany for me, and almost immediately began to excel athletically, at least physically. I still couldn't compete in team sports because of my lack of depth perception and visual acuity. Then, as I barely graduated high school and got accepted into a lower tier college, my ophthalmologist said, well, now that you're going to college, you probably should get reading glasses. And with hindsight being 2020, which is the only kind of sight that is 2020 for me, I realized that probably should have given me those reading glasses when I was in third grade. And it would have made a big difference. But so I began to excel athletically, although still in individual sports. I was in martial arts and endurance sports and weightlifting, bodybuilding, that sort of thing. And fast forward through my education, I received a couple of advanced degrees and received certifications in a number of different disciplines. And my brother, who was and continues to be a practicing dentist, suggested that I focus my attentions on my then fledgling marketing business to focus on the niche of dentistry. That way back in 1989, my brother recognized that dentists it was an increasingly competitive field, and that to really grow and prosper, dentists would need a lot of help on the practice management and specifically the marketing side. And that's what was the birth of the American Dental Corporation. We were basically glorified list brokers at that time. That was all we knew how to do. This was, again, 1989, so it was a good decade before the commercial accessibility to the internet was a thing. And so we were brokering mailing lists to dentists, and we quickly learned that that was maybe necessary but not sufficient to their success. And so we paid really, and I think this has been a hallmark of our development, was to kind of recognize, well, we close one door or we address one challenge and then another one or many ones appear. And we learned that dentists needed help with the development and implementation, fulfillment of the direct mail strategies we were doing. And then with the advent of the internet, we began to be able to track how the phone calls that we were generating were being handled, or in the majority of cases, unfortunately, being mishandled. And so I got involved in coaching people on, specifically we focused on telephone communications at that time, and That was the advent of the art of first impressions. But then I realized that dentists and their teams and people in general were really missing a lot of opportunities, both in terms of revenue generation and also just enriching their relationships on the non-business side by lacking a skill set to connect with people emotionally and to recognize that people make decisions emotionally and then justify it with logic. That's what really led to my development of the Persuasion Blueprint, which is something that I'm extremely passionate about and appreciate the opportunity to share with your audience.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story and the challenges that you faced as you were when you were younger. And I know that you're passionate about the Persuasion Blueprint. We've talked a little bit behind the scenes. So can you tell us? So I'm excited that you're here to share that with us because I know a lot of people could use support in this area, especially when they're building or growing, no matter what stage we are, whether it's in our business or in our personal relationships. Persuasion is key to communication as well and relationships. So can you share with us what is the Persuasion Blueprint?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. As I mentioned, the premise driving the Persuasion Blueprint is that people make decisions emotionally, and only then do they justify it logically. We all are equipped with the same neurology, the same brain architecture and chemistry. And it's really, our brains have not evolved that much over the past tens of thousands of years. We're still wired to respond to threat and to make quick decisions, just as we would have if we were on the savannah or in the jungle and faced by a wild animal. The human who at that time would say, "Now, I wonder what kind of animal that is that's about to pounce on me." They got culled from the herd pretty quickly. So we're still wired that our limbic system, which is usually the one that's the part of the brain that gets activated first, and that responds to threat and interprets and remembers emotions and recalls them. So if you are confronted with a similar situation, you make a rapid decision. So that doesn't serve us well in civilization very much. So a lot of what I work with people on is to recognize the emotion that you're feeling or the emotion that you're seeing in somebody else and getting granular with it so that you can help reduce its first and foremost its hold and control over you, and then how to learn skills so that you can attune to the individual, your counterpart, to help minimize the emotional impact and the resistance that you may be confronting. And the specific components of the Persuasion Blueprint are what I call the three C's. And those three C's are caring, connection, and collaboration. And they're pretty much the process of becoming an effective persuasive communicator is sequential. It's first you have to establish caring because people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And we work with people on how to do that by narrowing what I like to call the care gap. And the care gap is the difference between your intention and how you're being perceived by your counterpart. The the fact is that I can't teach somebody how to become more caring. So table stakes for this are that you're a caring, competent individual who really does have the goods to deliver on promises. And what I can do, though, is show you how to demonstrate that caring quickly and effectively to your counterpart. And once that's done, then we work together on helping establish a connection, which is establishing trust and as well as conveying credibility. And we also, so in that context, we work on how to, with our students on how to diminish the trust gap. And the trust gap is the distinction that people need to make. Most people feel that if I can just demonstrate my competency to you, you're going to follow my recommendations. And what people fail to realize is that most people are primarily interested with seeing and deciding that you understand and get them and their problem and can relate to them challenge, their challenges perhaps better than they can themselves. And that's the true way to establish trust. And once you've conveyed caring and established trust, you can then move on to conversations that help earn the collaboration of your counterpart to get them to the same side of the table as you by using language, asking questions, and employing pacing and silence to let them know that you understand their problem and that you are customizing a solution that they are taking ownership of. Because of the way you communicate with them, you bring them in to actually crafting the solution, which makes the plan that you recommend to them more customized, more personalized, and something that they take ownership of and are more likely to be compliant with. And that's basically a general overview of the three-step process of the Persuasion Blueprint.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very clear and you can easily follow it and understand it. And I love how you work with your clients and the people on what each of those steps are. And it starts with caring, right? People need to trust you before they'll even really listen to you fully. So establishing that first is key, and then building that connection, growing that relationship, and then collaborating, working together. I love that. And I think collaboration is something that I used to talk about a lot because it's very important when building relationships. And for someone like me, I'm an introvert. So collaboration was a way that I could wrap my head around and be good with being with people in that kind of environment without thinking I'm networking, right? Because networking used to it just was for me stressful because I felt like I had to be on all the time. And collaboration seems like, okay, we're working together for a common goal.
Yeah, and there's an interesting point you make is that there is no one way to be an effectively persuasive communicator. There's only one effective way for you. And I've worked with many different salespeople with varying, widely different approaches and skill sets. And the most successful ones I found really were the introverts, the ones who draw people in by not being threatening or feeling the need to dominate or control a conversation, and allowing their counterpart to feel that they're heard and they're being respected and listened to. And that really is the most effective. That God gave us two ears and one mouth. And so a lot of what I work on with people is effective listening with intent. People talk about active listening. You seldom hear people really get specific on what that means and
Yeah.
how to be an effective listener. I'm sure you understand that there are a number of bad habits people engage in when they think they're listening, and really they're just waiting for the person to stop talking so that they can say what's on their mind.
Exactly. They're focused on what they want to say next versus really being present to what's being spoken by the other person. And that people feel that. They may not consciously see it in the moment, but subconsciously we feel it. Why persuasive communication? Why did you decide to go down this path, especially coming from a marketing, a digital marketing space? I'm sure you all were rocking and rolling, doing your thing, successful. Why did you decide to make this?
I would say the initial impetus was a matter of enlightened self-interest, Heidi. We were getting the phone to ring, we were getting people on the websites, and our tracking technology, when we actually listened to the phone calls, was showing that a large percentage, an unacceptable percentage of these new client, patient, customer scheduling opportunities were being wasted because of a lack of an ability to connect with people. So I saw a great deal of waste on the business side. And then in my communications, I realized that, and I learned this by the vast number of bridges I burned and opportunities I squandered in my own life, in my own communications, and realized that success depends upon our ability to read these cues, respond to them, and connect with people. I'd seen so many people that were very competent and caring individuals who were nonetheless creating static and missing opportunities to have deeper relationships with people and not knowing why. I observed that people who have conversations, they, with the best of intentions, through their listening, their pseudo listening, you might say, were leading people to not want to connect with them, not have deeper relationships. And it was painful to watch, painful to experience personally. And I committed that I was going to do better and I was going to help people to do better. Because I saw so many people who were competent at their chosen craft or clinical skill, but their success was limited because they weren't connecting with people effectively.
Mm. So communication for many, I know for me, as I was evolving, communication wasn't one of my strong suits, especially as a younger person, as a child moving into my teens, early 20s, and burning bridges. I don't know if I like relationships definitely suffered because of that, due to that. And my a lot of it stemmed from my fear of being seen, being heard, not feeling like I was safe to share my true communication in certain environments. So I can imagine this is scary for people to lean into. So how do you, when people come to work with you, how do you set your students up like for success? How do you set that stage for them?
That's a great question. We do work one-on-one. I mean, I have a very, the backbone of my offering is a work at your own pace, 7 video module course. But what precedes that is that I ask my students to complete a persuasion scorecard, which serves as a baseline to see where you're at in terms of caring, connection, and collaboration. And then we schedule a strategy call, not only to find out what your challenges and opportunities are, but so that I can get a read on you and emotionally attune to you, find out what emotional ecosystem you're inhabiting and what your strengths and challenges are. You know, personally, I became successful academically and athletically and developed a high level of persistence and resilience. I became a successful mountaineer, an adventure racer, an endurance athlete. And I realized that my persistence and my resilience were necessary, but certainly not sufficient to my success if I was going to work with people. And so what I over my development and evolution, if you like, has really been an exercise in becoming patiently persistent and respectfully resilient. In other words, recognizing that if you're going to go far, you need to go with a team. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. But that wasn't sufficient for me. I wanted to go with a team. And so I needed to learn to slow down and pace myself, which is not to say that I was always the strongest athlete in the group. Often I wasn't. But what I mean by that is attuning to the person's pace and their needs, recognizing, demonstrating to them that I cared about their vision as much as I expected them to care about mine or the overriding goal. And that may describe many of your audience members and it may not describe others. So, you know, really it's just a matter of finding out who you are as a person, what strengths you bring, what areas you might benefit from strengthening, and then working on a customized one-on-one approach.
Mm. So you said something with that I've never heard before, which I love because it's you. If I want to go fast, I can go alone. If I want to go far, I can go with a team and with support. And I really like that a lot because we can go fast and not get far. So
That's right.
basically, what you're helping people is we're playing the long game.
Exactly. We're playing the long game. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the long game that's sustainable and benefits everyone involved, which is fantastic. So, how can people learn more about their persuasive blueprint? Is there something they can go grab? What can they do?
Absolutely. The approach to learn more is to simply go to the website, which is my name, dannybobrow.com. And I'm sure you'll include the link in your show notes.
Absolutely.
Once they're there, they can complete the persuasion scorecard I mentioned. That's complimentary. That will establish the baseline. And then we can schedule a strategy call, speak briefly, get acquainted, confirm that there's a fit. And then if there is, we offer you the 7 video module course. And I designed that with busy people in mind, myself, and recognizing that people don't maybe have very long attention spans. Again, we're a product of our wiring, and if we're going to be successful, I think that people learn more effectively in digestible small bites. So the average length of the modules is 15 minutes. Each module has then 2 to 3 exercises, assignments that we ask you to complete before you proceed to the next module. And I keep myself available as what I like to call your Persuasion Blueprint Sherpa. As a mountaineer, I learned that working with Sherpas was a really enlightening, enriching experience for me. It's not like the client the client consultant relationship. A Sherpa anticipates your needs. He's very flexible. They modify the approach based on your needs, and he doesn't say this is the path. He says we'll get there together, and that's the commitment that I have to my students, is that I will work with them one-on-one and help them achieve their goals.
So they get the blueprint. Who is this for? So if I have, for our listeners who's going, okay, I love everything Danny's saying, and I know I could, the 3 C's. I know there's areas that I can, work on there, and I'm willing to. Who would be the people that would benefit the most from seeing you? Are they executives? Is it anyone? Is it people in certain spaces?
Yes. I
answered my own question.
I studied marketing for many years, and I know one of the tenets of marketing is that we shouldn't try to be all things to all people. When it comes to the Persuasion Blueprint, I can't think of anybody that it wouldn't benefit, who would not benefit from this, whether you're trying to be more effective communicating with your teenage daughter, with a parent with whom you have a lot of history and therefore wonder if it's ever going to change. Business, nonprofit, government. I just came back from an overseas trip, and I took a lot of cab rides. And I like to engage people in a subject that is very controversial, because to me, this is the most challenging thing you can do. But I find out who they are, where they're from, and what their views are. And then I kind of gauge where they are. Are they open and curious, or are they dogmatic and resistant? And then I modify my communication accordingly, because you don't want to bring facts to a feelings fight, as Toba Hallerstein says. So it's a very great exercise to quickly, in the course of a cab ride, could be 15 minutes, to engage with somebody in a respectful manner and hope to plant seeds that might at least get them to think a little bit, rethink their position. Without them, the most paramount thing is for them to know that they were respected and appreciated. And that's a great example of where the Persuasion Blueprint can help. But I think it's a skill set that transcends any particular interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Danny, you've worked in the marketing space. You're helping people with their persuasive communication now. And so you've seen a lot of growth. I'm sure you've had a lot of challenges in both areas and arenas. So can you share with us, I know you're on podcast because you're here today, are there certain things that especially with this pivot, are there certain things that you're like, okay, marketing wise, to get myself out there to share this amazing thing that I've created with people to support them? How are you getting out there so your people can find you marketing wise? Are there certain things you're doing that say one or two are better than some other things that you've tried that just didn't work? So on both sides of the coin, what's working, what didn't work?
Well, what's working really well is the networking. And over 36 years in the healthcare space, I've developed some pretty good connections with some key influencers and thought leaders. Because one approach the approach I always took was that we thought we were very good at what we did, but we felt that our offering was necessary, but not sufficient to a successful practice's, to a practice's success and growth. And so I always took it upon myself to be aware of who else does what well in this profession, so that I could then sort of cross-pollinate. And in the course of doing that, I've established some very good connections, so that now people are willing to listen to me when I have a relatively new offering, which the Persuasion Blueprint is. They know who I am. They know I'm the real deal. And that's worked really well for me. I've had limited success with paid promotional strategies, remarketing. It's a pretty crowded field, and to get in front of somebody who's searching for a persuasive communication course is more challenging than me speaking to somebody who has the ear of tens, dozens, or possibly hundreds of clients or viewers, in the case of some podcasts that I'm on, who respect and trust the host. So that's been most successful for me. And my I think what's made me successful is that I have over time become more and more committed to doing what's solely in the best interest of the client and not really worrying about how I'm going to benefit from it. It really has worked out for me that focusing on delivering has led to results, benefit at the back end for me. It never seems to fail to do that. Another way that I get my, it's a form of networking too, but I also have a foundation called Climb for a Cause, which connects like-minded individuals who want to do a socially responsible good, have fun, and challenge themselves in the process, which is a great way I've intersected my passions for, you know, a physical challenge, philanthropy, and helping people to succeed through the medium of cause-related event marketing. And that's opened doors for me as well, because you get a chance to spend days with people, and inevitably the question is, what else do you do comes up. So I'm not like saying, hey, I want to talk to you about something. I just am there, and I live by the creed, which is if you want to be interesting, be interested. And so I am genuinely, authentically interested in learning from people. And going back to the cab ride analogy, the first thing I do is ask people where they're from and what they, what their interests are. And then I learn, I get a great geography lesson immediately. And then people open up to me because people love to talk about themselves. And I love when people talk about themselves because that's how I learn and grow.
Well, that's you implementing the first C of caring,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So you're practicing what you preach. You're showing up interested, which I love. I love that you brought that up. I don't know. I think many of us have heard it, but it's always good to rehear it because it's been a long time since I've heard it. And I was just like, oh yeah, if you want to be interesting, be interested. Lead with caring, lead with interest, and everything else will fall into place. So for you, what's next? You pivoted here. What are the big goals for Danny Bobrow, the Persuasion Blueprint over the next, if we were able to bring you back in a year, what's next for you? What's success
Well,
like for you?
I would love to get this in front of as many people as possible, possibly do a TED Talk and offer scholarships for young people to learn these skills because I'm particularly concerned with the technology and handheld devices that communication is really becoming an endangered species in our society. And I think that that doesn't bode well for our ability to get along even. I think
Right.
it's going to lead to increased polarization. People live in echo chambers. They get the same information from seemingly different sources, which feeds their confirmation bias. But people just are happy to be staring into their phone all the time. I've talked to friends of mine who say their kids text them from the back seat of the car.
Okay, we might call each other upstairs.
Yeah, and then I'll
What's
do
next
that
from
with.
the back of the
I'm
I'm
not
okay with
beyond
that.
that myself, but I don't want communication to be an endangered species, become
No,
extinct,
yeah,
because
no,
we're all in trouble when that happens.
we are. And we're headed there. We're headed there, unfortunately. Okay, so I've asked you what's next for the big goals for you. If I could give you a magic wand, Danny, and you can wave it over one challenge or issue you're having right now, and you can go poof and it disappears, what would that be and why?
This is a process. I guess it's not a problem. It's a process, which is to grow the following, get the word out about the Persuasion Blueprint. I continue to develop it and work with. I'm looking at working with AI tools to automate the learning process, the micro learning, to help people do exercises that are fun and automated, so that I can leverage myself. Because as I grow, if I'm working one-on-one with individuals with each assignment that is going, my time is going to become limited and the timeliness of my responses is going to suffer. So I am looking at ways to automate that process, the things that can be automated. But ultimately, I think it's self-defeating or contraindicated to rely too much on AI to help enhance human
Communication.
communication. I think AI is good for certain routine tasks that involve increasing efficiency, but empathy and caring and the human connection are something that I don't think that the bots are ever going to be able to do better than human beings themselves.
Yeah, so let's go there first for a minute. Automation AI, because it's here, it's not going anywhere, and it's just a matter of how people are using it, for their benefit, or whether they're not leaning into it as much. For you personally, with you shared a little bit, and I know there's different ways to gamify courses and programs, and you
Correct.
kind of lean into that. What tools are your favorite that you're using for you? I know it can't take away that personal, you can't take away the caring, can't take away the collaboration or the connection with human to human, but how are you using like specific tools that you might be that you're having fun with and using yourself?
Well, making me more of a prolific writer because I can put together outlines and ask one of the AI bots to write an article or a LinkedIn post, and I provide it with the content, and then it, in a flash, gives me something to look at, which I can then hone and edit. But it's more fun editing than writing from original. And it still seems some amazingly to capture my voice because I've been working with the tools for a couple of years and it learns. That's what its strength is. And so it does learn to capture the tone. And that's great, but a bot is never going to be able to personally, on your behalf, minimize the care gap or the trust gaps because, they can mimic emotion, but they can't really perform it.
Yeah. So, can you share with everybody again where people can find you, your social media, what platforms are you on? Are you on all of them? That way they can go out and connect with you.
Sure. Well, I'm primarily on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and they can just search for Danny Bobrow, and they'll find me at dannybobrow.com. The social media links are there, so that would really be the simplest, the path of least resistance, I would say.
Yeah, let's make it super simple. So, and I love that it's dannybobrow.com. You can't get any simpler than that. So go to dannybobrow.com, go check him out, go get your, what's the first thing they can do to
Persuasion scorecard.
the scorecard. Go fill out that scorecard, go book your call with Danny and go learn more. And it's dannybobrow.com. You can also go connect with him on social there as well. Connect with him. He's pretty amazing. You've heard him here and he's fantastic. So super nice guy. Go meet him, go connect with him, let him know that you met him here. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Go check out his YouTube channel. You're already there. Go find him, subscribe. And if you know of anybody that would benefit from learning more about persuasion communication and the Persuasion Blueprint, please share this episode and this interview and Danny with those people. Our goal is to support more people. And the way we do that is by you helping us send this out to people that you know could benefit. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, thank you and hello. I appreciate you. If there's if you're inclined to leave a review, please, we would love it. Preferably 5 stars. That helps the platform. It signals them that this is being watched and they'll push it out to more people and more people get to hear from and see Danny or listen to Danny and learn more about the Persuasion Blueprint. Danny, before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share or say that I didn't ask you or we didn't touch on today?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun, Heidi. The last thing I would just say, I touched upon listening. I would share just a couple of suggestions and when I go into a conversation, I always ask myself, I always confirm with myself that the goal of this is to enhance the relationship and not to flatter my ego. When people engage in listening, often with the best of intentions, they'll engage in certain habits that really tend to derail it. So if somebody shares with you a vacation that you're going on, often the reaction for you is to share a vacation that you went on. And that tends to invalidate or diminish the story that they're sharing. So let them be the star. Ask questions, ask them to elaborate on their experience, and then you can share your experience with them. But don't make the mistake of one-upping your counterpart. Because I talked to, and I've observed a lot of people that have had relationships really end or become very superficial because the conversation, especially among families, is that another habit is you're listening to somebody shares a problem and you try to fix it right away. Often people don't want you to fix the problem. They just want to be heard and validated. So there are a number of other ones, but in general, as long as you ask yourself the question, am I listening to enhance the relationship or is my response designed to flatter my own ego? I think you'll be amazed at the progress that alone will help you to make.
That is a fantastic way to end this because I love everything you said. I know I've been guilty on both sides of it, not guilt, just I've done both where I've shared and then I feel like I wasn't heard because it turns into about them and vice versa. I know I've done the same, and I don't think most of us do it to one up consciously.
Correct.
And
Not
we
consciously.
don't do it consciously. And I can completely see when we put ourselves in that other person's shoes that it's when it's happened to us, how that can come across to that person who's sharing. Like they're going on vacation, they're excited to share it with you. And then all of a sudden it turns to you and your vacation that you took a year ago. And like you said, be interested. If the best way to be interesting is be interested. And by you asking questions and being present to what they're sharing and going deeper with them, that's going to just build automatically without you even having to work hard, deepen that relationship and that connection. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't have to
Yeah.
work hard. In fact,
Yeah.
one measure of progress and success with my students is when things just seem lighter and simpler.
Yeah. And what was the other thing you shared with that too? Because
With respect to listening,
yeah. Yes.
well, one-upping, finishing other people's sentences because we feel like we're going to demonstrate that we're listening and we care and we're knowledgeable. But finishing and this is a problem that a lot of very highly successful people fall into, is they've done the same thing 1,000 times. They know what their counterpart is thinking and going to say, but you still have to give them the respect and dignity of letting them say it, even if you have to just bite your tongue. The other thing is, it's often the case that they share something that you didn't know. But in the most important thing is just to give them the chance to share it because it shows respect and it helps you make that connection. Those are the main habits that I think we want to try to avoid. Fixing problems, finishing people's sentences, thinking
Mhm.
about what you're going to say next, one-upping somebody. Those are really simple habits to practice not doing when you just become aware of it.
Yeah, and the key, good one is fixing other people's problems. They're sharing a problem, and I think if we care about that person, we just want to take the pain away. So we automatically try to fix it. And you made such a great, amazing point of they don't necessarily want you to fix it. They just want to vent. They just want to get it, get it off their chest and share. And you're just there to be present. They
And
ask
you
you,
can ask them too, once you've
right?
listened to them and they feel like they've been heard, because that's really what they need. You can say, well, would you like me to offer any sort of feedback on how maybe to address that? And
Yeah.
they might say yes and they might say no, but they're more likely to say yes if you took your time and listened and really allowed them to air their grievance first.
Yeah. So good. Danny, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. So grateful for you and your time. I know you're a busy man, just got back from a trip. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day. And we're getting later in the day. So thank you so much. Thank you all for listening to Danny and I. Make sure you go connect with him. Go to dannybobrow.com and make sure that you connect with him, say hi, follow him on social, and go do your persuasion scorecard. Get that done and book your call. And I look forward to seeing you, Danny. Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.
Pleasure was mine, Heidi. Thank you.